Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. And today we want to talk about AI and ransomware because AI is now generating ransomware on its own. And it's a new day in cybersecurity, data security, and the defense of your systems and mine as well. So Security Fairs had a great write-up on this. But we got to give a shout out to ESET. Basically, they are the antivirus EDR threat detection maker because they're the ones that basically found this. And in a series of messages on X, formerly Twitter, ESET Research announced the discovery of the first known AI-powered ransomware known as prompt lock. That's what they're calling it. So this prompt lock, and for the record, we're going to do our best to basically keep this in plain English because I know not all of you are cybersecurity nerds like myself. But prompt lock is malware, and it is using an actual AI model that has been created by OpenAI, makers of ChatGPT. That model is known as GPT-OSS20B. Now, they're using that model locally. In other words, they are installing it essentially maliciously into a local system like your computer, and then they're using an API or application programming interface, basically from Ollama to essentially generate malicious scripts and then essentially have them executed. And because it's AI and it can think for itself, it has the ability to randomize these, create variants, all that kind of stuff. So prompt lock is using these AI generated scripts to do things like scan your files, steal your data, encrypt your data like regular ransomware, and on and on. These scripts are essentially multi-platform. So in other words, the AI understands that it can write this on the fly for Windows or for your MacBook, or Linux, etc., etc. And the ransomware is written basically in Golang, that's the language, and ESET has identified both Windows and Linux variants at this point uploaded to VirusTotal. VirusTotal is a big clearinghouse for a whole bunch of indicators of compromise, and so everybody in cybersecurity likes to basically run infected files by VirusTotal because odds are somebody's found it, and now ESET is basically adding that to the VirusTotal mix. Prompt lock can steal or encrypt your user data, but ESET also noticed that it has a data destruction feature, meaning it can overwrite your data so it's unrecoverable. It was present in prompt lock, but it didn't seem to be implemented. And the ransomware basically side of it, they are utilizing what is known as SPEC 128-bit encryption to essentially encrypt your files, meaning you're going to have a hard time getting it back if you don't have the keys, etc., etc. In other words, it's not something you can type password into and unlock. But this is a new day on the data security side of cybersecurity because the risk factor here turns up. And what artificial intelligence does, because it's allowed to think for itself, is it may be able to create variants with very unique approaches as opposed to a human author that may be thinking along one lane as they're programming something malicious, the criminal himself. And so by virtue of that, it's going to be really good at evading traditional antivirus and probably standard endpoint detection response systems. The latest versions of these platforms and systems are now starting to act as prevention models. In other words, as they are detecting using things like deep learning, the unusual new behavior that a prompt lock would create or generate on write, meaning as it's writing to the system, it's starting to see this now and then being able to lock it down and then isolate the computer that is infected and prevent that spread from, let's say, a network. So you're at home and you've got 10 computers, for your family, it'll isolate the one. Or if you're in the office, it'll isolate your computer and protect the other 1,000 in the office, whatever it is. So these are things that we need to start considering, but we knew this was coming. We knew that basically letting an AI turn malicious at the hands of a criminal to generate malware, because again, there are no ethics for an artificial intelligence here, is going to be the next thing. And so traditional antiviruses, traditional endpoint detection response is pretty much going to go the way of the dodo if they are not improving and increasing. So if you're just using the AV that came with your computer, it's time to step up your game. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at Nick AESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, please, please attempt to stay private, informed, and secure. Take care.